So the task under the EHR system and harmonized components, which was task 5.1 in the project, was supposed to support the HDS implementation through defining of the harmonized system requirements for the EHR systems. How we started was we started from the regulation itself, especially Annex 2, which is specifically focusing on the HR requirements. And we made an effort to transpose the legal requirements into technical ones in this task. The biggest challenge was to bridge legal and policy requirements to technical implementation with the goal of providing a common European baseline for the EHR systems requirements specification. Now, the scope of the task and the deliverable 5.1 was to cover the EHR system software components, again, from the Annex 2 of the regulation, which would be applicable both to national and cross-border settings, and which would take into account different models for deployment and implementation, which was, as you might imagine, a big challenge due to the many differences between national infrastructures. The target users, of course, were both the member states implementing the requirements, but also the vendors and system implementers. There was a range of European level stakeholders, which were also taken on board to comment the deliverable and to participate at some crucial points, some crucial milestones throughout the deliverable drafting. Next slide, please. So the deliverable itself, deliverable 5.1, was separated into three distinct sections, you might say, which are also following from the Annex 2 of the regulation. So we tried to define the general requirements, the interoperability requirements, and the security and logging requirements under the regulation, under the Annex 2, focusing on these specific aspects, as you can see in the bullet points. We don't need to go too much into those. You can, of course, read the deliverable if you haven't already, but what you should know probably is that all of these specific components are also reflected from the Annex 2. So each of these bullet points come from the legal requirements that are in the regulation, and each of them has been transposed into a technical requirement for the member states and vendors to implement. Now, important to notice also is that due to the regulation and the spirit of the regulation and the specific requirements therein, these requirements listed in 5.1 should then apply to all systems, regardless of their geographical scope. Again, they should cover different models for implementation, not to break the existing member state infrastructures, and hopefully they do provide a common baseline for all the implementations across Europe, which is then further advanced through the specific models and specifications, implementation guides that are currently being developed, but also more importantly, through the implementing acts or a specific implementing act on the EHR systems. Our purpose was to, in a way, give a blueprint for the implementing act in terms of the technical requirements for these harmonized components. Next slide, please. So since we have provided different aspects, the different levels of requirements for different harmonized components, right? So there are different approaches that have been discussed and explored throughout the drafting of the document. However, all of them are based on the EHR format. They're built around the standardized architecture, which can hopefully be easily implemented across the member states. The primary exchange model was based on the so-called pull approach, but the push approach has been discussed as well in the text. Again, just to clarify this, the current infrastructures, cross-border infrastructures, and the scope of the regulations are more, at least it seemed to us, pull-based. So we didn't want to over-regulate with the technical requirements, but we do have, apart from the more or less pull-based requirements, we do have a chapter that's more speculative and that does discuss the push approaches as well. Next slide, please. So the scope of the deliverable are the two harmonized components from the regulation. One is the interoperability and the other one is the logging component. Each of these has their own set of requirements that are listed in the deliverable. The purpose of the interoperability component being to enable an exchange of data in a consistent and standardized way, whereas the logging component is used to track and record access to the data, ensuring transparency and accountability, and also being in line with the data protection regulation. Again, both of them are based on the backbone, of course, is the regulation itself, and the format. So both of them are based on the format. And again, one of the guiding principles, as I mentioned before, was to create a layer that would not intrude upon the existing member state infrastructures, while at the same time providing compliance to the regulation itself. Next slide, please. So to summarize everything, what was the role and impact of the deliverable itself? So first and foremost, it was the baseline deliverable in many ways, the baseline technical deliverable in the project for all the other deliverables, which were considering, for example, the priority categories, so work package 6 and 7, the tasks and deliverables. Also in 5.2, the metadata task was also in several ways based on the 5.1. Since the 5.1 provided this baseline recommendations for all EHR systems, both for the local, regional, and cross-border exchange of data, this was again used both as an input through other technical deliverables and tasks, but also serve the comitology process for the implementing act. The biggest challenge was to create a balance between what needs to be introduced as a new standard way of doing things, the technical standard for the member states that in order to fulfill the requirements of the regulation, but also at the same time not to break the current member state infrastructures in any way. So hopefully we have done a good job at it. And the next step is now to move from the legislation to the technical requirements. The next step that has already started is to move from technical requirements to specifications, for example, implementing guides. And then finally, the next step in the future will be the actual solutions and the actual implementations. Since many of these processes are still ongoing, it's really difficult to foresee how they will end. But again, I hope that this task and the work that has gone into it and the deliverable that is the result of it will serve as a feasible blueprint for all the activities in the future. Thank you.